On Saturday, the 5th of August, Alexander Zinchenko is going to be hosting a very special game for Ukraine. It's going to be taking place at Stamford Bridge, raising funds to rebuild a school in war-torn Ukraine. Now, there's going to be some real legends playing in this game. Now, if you can't get down there on the day, you will be able to join us in the metaverse, where you'll be able to come through and be a part of the game. You don't need to be at the stadium. You can actually be involved. This is for a great cause. It's building a better future for the children in Ukraine. Click the link in the description right now and get involved. This is going to be big.
Welcome back to the Tactical Insight Show, everyone. It's been, a couple months now, but instead of waiting till the start of the Premier League season, we thought we had to talk about what Arsenal looked like tactically across the USA pre-season tour and a little bit the Nuremberg game, just because Arteta's given us so much to think about and get involved in. And I'm back reunited with Graham. How are you? How's your summer been?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. How are you? How was America?
The States was brilliant. The fans out there were brilliant. Shout out to all the amazing fans that showed a lot of love to our show. They love it, Graham. Big thank you to all of you. And yeah, it's very humbling. It's very kind of overwhelming in a great way to realise how many people are watching and supporting this show. So big thank you to everyone who is. And it's great to be back because, like I said, we have a lot to talk about here.
We have. Any secrets from the off camera? When you're sharing a room with the judge and Robbie and all that, any secrets you want to reveal for the subscribers?
What, exclusive one for the Tactical Insight fans?
Yeah.
Best not. No. There aren't actually many. No. The vloggers, Jason and Ryan, do an amazing job. They caught everything, so there aren't many secrets.
I'll tell you what, it looked absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Out there. And the work you did, that AFTV did in America, really enjoyed watching. So yeah.
Thank you. Really glad you enjoyed it. And one thing I really enjoyed was the 5-3 win against Barcelona. I think where last season's pre-season we had a 100% win record that led to a 100% record in our opening 5 games of the Premier League season, these results were a little bit more all over the place, but they definitely sent us off at the end of the USA tour with that feeling of optimism, somewhat similar to how we felt going into last season. We're going to talk mainly about the USA tour. Of course, we did start with a 1-1 draw against Nuremberg. Saka got the goal, again a very good goal. We saw a few things tried and tested there, but largely it's not a bad set of pre-season results, especially. It's just that we lost to United, and actually when we had Rice in the team making his debut and all that, I think we hoped for a little bit better. Yeah. But largely Arsenal have shown signs of encouragement going into the new season.
Yeah, 3 different states, and Washington, New York and Orlando.
Yeah.
Which was the best.
California.
So was California, was it? Get it right? Yeah, of course, it was back in LA, wasn't it? So Orlando is where you were last year.
Yeah.
So of those stadiums you visited, which was the one the standout stadium?
100% the SoFi. I mean, what the Kroenkes have built there with the Rams, and I won't go into all the the moving them back to LA and the team and all that. The building of that complex, that arena, it looked like a shopping mall with a stadium in it. It was unbelievable and absolutely fit for some of the biggest sporting events and sporting players and legends to come and play there. It was really special,
and it's great to see all the American fans out there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Fantastic fans.
Yeah, oh god, they were brilliant. The support they showed for Arsenal, loud in every ground, creating brilliant atmospheres. And look, don't get me wrong, the MetLife Stadium, seeing Arsenal at Man United, also a very impressive ground, but it's just the performance that lets us down a little bit. I actually thought the first 20 minutes against Man United, I actually thought we looked pretty bright. We could easily have been 1 or 2 up. This was one of those games where I know United fans said they played brilliantly on the day. I slightly disagree. I thought they were defensively more resolute than us. I don't think they were particularly great themselves. 2 errors from Arsenal and they go and win that game. I felt this was one of those games where on another day we might win it 1-0. The exact same performance, we might win that game 1-0. I didn't think it was a particularly great game of high quality, whereas the Barca-Arsenal game, I actually thought both teams showed quite a lot across that 90.
Yeah, I think the Barca-Arsenal game, I think the reaction for me is typical of fans pre-season. You get over excited when you win, you get down when you lose. But I think we need to sort of put that into some sort of perspective. It's always great to get momentum pre-season, which we had last year, didn't we? With wins over Everton and Chelsea. But I think we have to think about, and which we're going to talk about today, is that really Arteta has used this pre-season as looking for solutions to our play this season. About looking at, I think he wants us to be more unpredictable, was a word he used. I thought last year he thought the team were becoming very predictable in their build-up and the way we pressed and the way teams were able to press onto us. I think he wants to change the dynamic.
Yeah.
And then what we saw in the games, which we're going to talk about, is inversions from different sides,
Yeah.
different build-up, different solutions, and lots of rotation and fluidity in the play, which was great to see.
Completely agree. You sent me this, which I thought was really just a nice little look at sort of, the 11 goals Arsenal scored, how they were divided, 3 for Trossard, 2 each for Havertz and Saka, Martin, Jesus, Vieira and Jorginho all getting one. That Vieira strike, by the way, I'm so glad he got that goal, because he needed a moment to remind everyone, I've got quality, and to remind himself a little bit, because I actually don't think he looked that great in his other appearearances, and Trossard might well have been the player of pre-season as well. He was fantastic. But yeah, very, very good. Havertz got 2, I mean, with all the, all the reaction to the shooting challenge and stuff. I mean, I was there. There was a clip that went out of me acting very disappointed with Havertz's shooting challenge. It was just sarcasm. It doesn't matter that much. But yeah, fair play to those players who got themselves on the score sheet. Let's talk about, we're actually going to go and talk about the MLS All-Stars yet. I want to talk about that in a sec. I want to start with this 11 and the performance against Man United and really let you take it away, because you noticed a lot about how, while this looks like a very strong Arsenal 11, it was a lot more experimental than people think.
Yeah, I think that what we saw in this game is Arsenal building up in different ways.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the combinations that we normally were used to last season, that was disrupted in this game. So we were used to seeing like Saka, Odegaard and White normally as the 3 on the right.
White would normally be the right back to overlap and help out.
Or he would obviously normally be out wide, and Odegaard would be close to Saka. On the left-hand side, we would see the left full-back inverting, and we would see Rice's position. He was he's like the number 6 now.
Yeah.
So at the moment, when you look at this, you've got like a back 3, and your number 6 is now on the left-hand side, and Timber is the one who's going to invert, which is the first thing we saw. So there was disruption to the way we built up. These connections were never quite going to come off straight away, I felt. And I felt that in the game, as you said, we started the game quite well for 20 minutes. But I thought the disadvantages of this system at the moment, where they're still trying to bed it in, I thought was the fact that, first of all, Rice was playing on the left-hand side, and it'd be interesting to see this season whether Rice and Havertz are like that left-sided combination, and maybe Partey
from right back inverts.
No. When Partey plays, White is the, so you've got like White, and Partey and Zinchenko on the left side. So there's lots at the moment to think about. We do not know what Mikel is thinking at the moment. But what he did in this game was Rice, our number 6, played on the left-hand side, and Timber was the one inverting. Now, normally, Zinchenko would invert from the left-back side. Our number 6 would be on the right-hand side, would be Partey. But the problem when you don't have Partey on the right-hand side is Saliba has to come out the middle and come on to the right-hand side, James. And then we've got this, if Timber has gone forward to join the attack, we've got this massive hole in the half space. And United, a couple of times in this game, exploited the gap on that side where Thomas Partey would normally be. Rice, I think, prefers the left-hand side. And he was, I think, in this game, what we saw was he was coming out wide because Tomiyasu was coming up high. So Tomiyasu was like, both fullbacks were high and wide a lot in that game against Man United. And Rice was covering the space out of this side. It did leave when Timber went up as well, a gap here, I thought, which Man United exploited. But I thought with Saliba pushing over to the right-hand side, we saw a difference where normally Gabriel would come over to the left-hand side, Saliba would stay in the middle, and White would be the 3 defenders. And now Saliba has gone out to the right, and Gabriel's coming to the middle. Personally, I don't like to see that. I would prefer Gabriel being the left-sided player who comes out with Zinchenko inverting. Or interesting, in the second game, Timber was on the left-hand side, and he could, as we said off camera, he could easily start the season because Zinchenko has got an injury problem. So it was interesting to see how well he adapted on the left-hand side. But I think the question is, Rice, can he play on the right-hand side in this system? He clearly favours the left-hand side, in which case we've got that problem on the right-hand side. For me then, Timber, who is sort of like, just moving back me, there he goes.
There you go.
I think he's got to be very positionally better than what he was at times in that Man United game, because I think he's going to have to sit in the position where Thomas Partey would normally play. Because I think we're going to need that protection off the ball. I think that what we saw in this game was the system with Havertz up high, looking to get into the box. I could see the plan. I could see what they were trying to do. There was a few crosses into the box for him. He was linking up the play. He was getting involved here. Not too many touches, but when he gets in the box, he's instinctive. He got a couple of goals. Question is, the jury's out for him in that position at the moment. I can see Arsenal. I think we've got like a system where in certain games, maybe against, I hate to say lesser teams, but teams where we can be more aggressive in the way we play with the ball. There's probably a place for Rice and Havertz playing in this role. I just wonder, and we've talked about it, when you play the harder teams, particularly away from home, that to me is very open, you know, in that system. And I would like to see maybe Rice playing there and maybe Partey playing there, and then the left back, if it's Tomiyasu, but that is Zinchenko. So when Zinchenko checks in next to Partey, so the system is exactly what we had last season. You know, but I think Arteta thinks that Xhaka can't play that attacking role as well as an attacking midfielder, is why he wants Havertz in that role. The question is, when you play a top team to play with, he's talked about wanting the box midfield as well. I understand why you'd want the box midfield in build-up. But when you're playing a top side and you're playing like sort of two wide players, a centre forward, an attacking number 8, and Odegaard as well, you could say almost like two number 10s. You know, and I know we always talk about having 5 defenders and 5 attackers. When you're playing that system, you are vulnerable. I think. To me, it's over aggressive. And the thing about having Xhaka, he talks about his limitations in the attacking sense, but he knew how to get back and defend when he had to.
I agree.
And so I think this is a work in progress. What he talked about, Arteta, we saw in the Man United game. I think he was experimenting, trying to find solutions. We saw players. It was a little bit more worrying because you saw that the normal combinations were not there, were they? Particularly, and we can't sleep on what we got on that right-hand side too much with White, Saka and Odegaard, because that was one of the best parts about our play last season. But we didn't even have the connection on the left-hand side in this game.
No, we didn't. Either. No, we didn't. I thought, you know, with this point you made here, if we just move Gabriel back with Tom, I thought this point you made here was spot on about, on paper, when you look at the 11 and 4-3-3, you go, cool, Martinelli, Odegaard, Saka are playing where they'd be. Rice is your £105 million signing. Timber can play right back. Saliba, Gabriel. You think, okay, that all sounds like things we've seen before, but actually, when you put them in this shape, and let me just put it in red. When you put them in the shape of the 3-2-4-1 or 3-2-5,
3-2-5,
it's actually amazing how many players are out of position. Tomiyasu wouldn't normally be there, Gabriel wouldn't normally be there, Saliba wouldn't normally be there, Timber's a new signing, Rice is a new signing, Havertz is a new signing, and Jesus would start. So actually there are only 3 players, okay, Ramsdale, there are only 4 players on the pitch, but 3 outfielders who were playing in the area that they would be in the attacking shape that they were last season. And so that's where I said it was very experimental. Yes, a lot of the players seem similar. Yes, you had 105 million, 65 million, 40 million, whatever it is, pound signings in the team. So you think, well, that's an upgrade, that should be better, sure. But it was a lot more experimental than people think. The other thing that I thought was interesting, and I really want to contrast this to how we did things against Barcelona. And I'm going to shout out Tifo Football, because sometimes I need to separate what I want to happen to what is likely to happen. I never liked the idea of Havertz pressing from the front with Odegaard slotting in with Rice. But that's exactly what they explained would happen, and that is exactly what did happen. So you make a back 4, and we had... Oh, there you go, Timber. He doesn't want to move for any of us. And you had Havertz pressing from the front. And I don't like this. Odegaard, Rice. For me, when you've got a new player adapting and a more number 10 creative player, that doesn't feel anywhere near as sturdy as when we had Partey and Xhaka, who had a really nice balance, and you had Partey the right foot and Xhaka the left foot. There's a much better balance. Here, in this press, we don't have the same. He addressed it a bit against Barcelona, and I'll save that for when we do the Barcelona stuff. But I didn't think this was a great balance. It might need time, sure, but it just didn't look or feel right to me. It's only one game, but yeah.
I think the 2 things I'd take from what you just didn't talk about there is, first of all, on the Havertz thing, I think he wants Havertz to lead the press. So Odegaard has been the one last season who was leading the press a lot of the time when we dropped back into our 4-4-2 shape. But if Odegaard's going to be playing wider at times as a result of a right back inverting, he's not going to be able to lead the press, is he?
That's true.
So basically, he's deeper now. So Havertz is the one leading the press. I think he wants, Arteta wants sometimes Havertz to lead the press, Odegaard to lead the press. I think he wants a bit of variation there. But I thought on that right-hand side, I didn't think it worked quite so well with Odegaard so deeper.
No.
I know he can play there,
Yeah.
but the reason he was coming deeper was because Timber was inverting a lot of the time. So he was coming in here, which obviously the connection between Saka and him is slightly broken because of that. And of course we haven't got, because Timber's inverting, a lot of the time if he's inverting and then he decides to move on to support the attack like Benjamin White does. Remember, Benjamin White holds the width normally when Odegaard is close to Saka. So that's what you normally see. But he's sort of like what Timber's doing here. He's inverting. But if he chooses to go high, and a lot in that game, I thought he was getting up high quite a lot. He wasn't getting back, quite so comfortably. So when he did that, if he made the wrong choice or he didn't have the energy to get back, that's where that hole appears. And that's where, if you've got our number 6 on the left-hand side, as Rice was in that game, you haven't got your number 6 over here, which is where Thomas Partey would be. So I think that's something, I think that positioning Arsenal have to think about. I think if Rice is playing left side and he's going to invert, I think he's going to not go high quite so much as what he would do. And you've got to remember, in this game against Man United, both our fullbacks were going high a lot, and that was leaving a lot of space behind. What Man United did really well in that game was they were very aggressive, over-aggressive some would say, very defensively solid, and then they were looking to clip balls over the top into these half spaces where players were vacating their positions. And I think positionally we're still getting used to this system when we flip to the inversion from the left-hand side. From the right-hand side.
Let's talk about the MLS, which is very, very quickly. We beat them 5-0. I don't think we can take too much from it. But I thought what was interesting was looking at Trossard as the number 8. And that's all I'm going to say on this game. Thought Jesus, great goal. Saka looked bright. Vieira was okay. By the way, I've liked Kivior in pre-season. I know he didn't really play I don't think he played at all. He came on against Barcelona, did okay. But I've liked Kivior in pre-season. I think he might have a real shout for playing that Zinchenko role. We saw he inverted against Nuremberg. But Trossard was in the 8 there. And the reason I mention it is because the Barcelona game, here we go. So this was the 11 when we played Barcelona. And again, he's backing Havertz in the 8. Rice was unavailable. Partey came back in. I think Partey was a player who, coming in, I think just reminded everyone how good he is and how much he settles us into our play. But more on that later.
We can't sleep on him, can we?
No, not at all.
I mean, in that game, progressive passes, and he won in 4 ground duels. He was excellent. Again, it showed us what a good player he is. I think of the two, him and Rice, I think Rice, you could argue, is slightly better defensively.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think Partey, for what he offers us, particularly in progressive passing, breaking the lines, we saw evidence of just how good he was in that game. Also his physicality, of course. Yeah,
he was fantastic. Now, what I found fascinating, we just talked about how, Jesus leads the press and Havertz would be there in the last game. Actually, they readdressed it, Arsenal, in this game, where it wasn't quite so man for man. It wasn't a super aggressive press, but there was a much better, if we just move Barcelona up the field a little bit, there was a more aggressive, it's hard to move them, here we go. There was a slightly, not more aggressive, there was a slightly flatter, almost 5, like Odegaard and Havertz were sort of up there with the front 5, and White, Saliba, Gabriel and Partey was almost as deep as the defenders. It was almost like 1-5 and then another 5. And look, I don't know if that's going to work all the time, but I much prefer the balance of Odegaard and Havertz just picking up one side each, rather than one having to step up and press with the striker. Because when you've got to call them more number 10s, more creative players, I think they've got to stick together a lot more either side of their holding midfielder, because Partey had a lot of ground to cover in that game, but did it really, really well. But I thought the balance of that press was better.
I agree 100%. And also what I would like to see is, I like it, if Timber inverting from the left in the Zinchenko role, Partey in the right, and we've got our 3 here, Saliba back in the middle. The other thing I would like to see, and I think this is something I think that we could think about, is you think about the role that Havertz is going to play now. He's going to play that number 8 role, and we know he's going to be looking to arrive late in the box. But one thing we had problems with last season, James, I think, was playing over the press. Teams were sort of like, when we played at Manchester City, they beat us literally. We were pressing onto them, and they literally went long to Haaland, De Bruyne running off Haaland, and that created their first goal and set the tone for the game. We couldn't do that to other teams because we haven't got a Haaland. But what we have got is a 6'4" Havertz, who is a striker after all. So I can't see any reason why he can't, with Jesus dropping into the number 8 or even dropping over to the number 11 position, if the number 11 is not on the pitch. He can come into the central position. It gives us the option of going over the press, and then we can build play there. We haven't had that last year, and I think what you saw in certain games was when teams pinned us in, we didn't have that ability to go over their press. If now we've got the ability to do that, I think that means that teams will drop off or have to make a decision. Do we go and engage or do we step back? So I think Havertz's role here is quite interesting. He clearly brought him to play him at number 8, James.
I agree.
To get him, because he wants him in here. 2 instinctive finishes in the games against Man United and Barcelona. You saw the strength of Havertz in the fact that he's instinctive in the box. He's 6'4". They can aim for him in the box as well. But why not aim for him if he drops in here with Gabriel Jesus? Because let's face it, Gabriel Jesus can play anywhere across the front line. Last season he played over on the right-hand side, taking Saka's position. He can come over onto the left-hand side, and he was rotating a lot in that game. And Havertz can even come at centre forward during the game. But he can also be our way of playing over if teams are pressing us. I think that's a key point.
I completely agree. It was amazing to me how often in pre-season we saw Havertz, when Arsenal did get onto the edge of the penalty area, how often Havertz was in the box just waiting for it to happen. He wasn't a part of it. His contribution to build up is in the first third, the middle third, but then in the final third, Ødegaard, Trossard, Martinelli, Saka's, they're the magicians on the edge of the box trying to make things happen. Havertz was very much asked to get into the box as much as possible. But another player, by the way, I gave Martinelli player of the season last year. I thought he was brilliant. And I also thought that just his ability to dart in behind and give us that kind of one end. Think of the goal against Brighton away from home, one end of the pitch to the other. The way Martinelli is able to execute that kind of thing, I just think there's always a place for him in the squad. But when I just show you this about Trossard, forget the fact he just scored 3 goals, okay? That's obviously a reason to get him in the team as well. But if I just move the players up the pitch, what you've also got in this left space here of Jesus, Havertz and Trossard is Jesus, a striker who's played out wide before, Trossard, a wide player who's played in lots of central spaces before, and Havertz, who's playing as our number 8, but has largely played the last 3 years as a forward. And what I saw often in the Barcelona game was Arsenal and Arteta going, we're going to be unpredictable, we're going to pop up in different spaces. And the reason Trossard might be so much more key to this season than we think, unfortunately at the expense of Martinelli, though I would back Martinelli to make his way into other areas of the team as well, I think the reason he can be so massive, Trossard, is because of his versatility and his flexibility. And you might have moments like this where Havertz, like you said, you want to beat the press, you want to go long, he can peel off into the wide areas of the penalty area or whatever, or go forward and try and drop the defence back. He can go up top. Jesus picks up the scraps on the wing. By the way, Jesus' hold-up play was brilliant against Barcelona as well.
He had a brilliant tour.
And there was a moment where Trossard came and won the ball in midfield where he got it, and then you thought there's a man on him, is he going to go back? And he dropped a shoulder and turned and then started carrying the ball forward. I just think there's a very good chance that Arteta's looking at this not just about getting his best players on the pitch, but getting the best combinations and figuring out what is the way that we can unlock players like Havertz, players like Trossard. They might be really key to each other. Everyone said Rice would be key to Havertz. I think that is true to a degree, but I think we saw in the Barcelona game that you get the right players around him, you can get the best out of his versatility as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of games this year, James. There's a lot of there's Champions League, there's league games. So there's going to be games where I think where Trossard sits out a game or where Martinelli sits out a game. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Each player offers a different dynamic. Yeah. Trossard does offer a lot of versatility and flexibility, as you've just explained so brilliantly there. But the one thing you can't sleep on with Gabriel Martinelli, he does have that raw pace.
He does. And he's a killer as well.
And his goal scoring ability to run in from left to right, from out to in, like Saka, and score goals. So it gives him lots of solutions in games, depending on the opponent, depending on how we want to play. He can mix it up in games. I think it's good dynamic he's got there now.
I completely agree. Now, I'm just looking at my phone here because we've got our notes of players that we felt came out stronger from pre-season and players we thought came out weaker. Let's do the players we felt came out weaker, because let's end on a positive. And it's not to say that they were bad, it's just that actually maybe just left us a few more concerns. You had 2 players. Do you want to reveal who they were?
Yeah, I thought the 2 players who didn't have great tours, whatever you want to call it, winners or losers, or whatever we want to call it. What do we want to call this? Had weak tours or strong tours. I thought Aaron Ramsdale
Yeah.
Clearly
There you
didn't have a great tour. I think he made mistakes in the game, in 2 games. And it's interesting in that yesterday we were being linked to the Brentford keeper. And I think the thing with Aaron Ramsdale is that I saw a stat yesterday when the link to the Brentford keeper came out. Last season, the goals he should have stopped, his figures were quite low. I think it was something like, I can't remember the figure. It's on my phone, James.
Okay,
have you got it on there?
Somewhere here, but yeah, anyway.
But the point being is he let in more goals than he should have done from shots that he faced. I think that's the key point here. And I think with him, he's got a tremendous character, tremendous personality. I love the way he engages with opposition fans. But maybe he's become a little bit too complacent, and maybe that's sort of over the last back end of last season unto this tour. It's sort of like seeped into his keeping now, where he's getting a little bit too content, almost that he's unchallenged in that number 1 spot. And I think by bringing David Raya in, Raya, is that how you say his name?
Yeah, Raya.
That will keep him on his toes, I think, and he'll know he'll have to perform. But he was one of the players I thought on the tour who didn't have a particularly good tour. Made mistakes against Man United, certainly for the Fernandes goal, he should have stopped that. Second goal, questionable, I think he should have also saved that.
Sure. And
maybe even the free kick. I know he was going one way and he had to adjust, but I thought that he was very, he went too far very quickly to one side and then didn't give himself enough time to get back. So he made errors on the tour. Also, his kicking, I think, hasn't quite been...
It was better against Barcelona.
Barcelona. It wasn't good against Man United.
Yeah,
the one thing we know about the Raya is his kicking is pretty good. So he's one of my players who I thought had a pretty poor tour.
Yep.
And the other one is Eddie Nketiah. And I thought, I don't like to disrespect Eddie. I think that I just called it as it is. I just thought I watched him particularly in that Man United game. The ball wasn't sticking to his feet. He was making wrong decisions. He missed chances. Shooting wasn't great. And I just thought he didn't have a particularly... When I watched him, he wasn't that great. And I think that you could say Ramsdale and Nketiah were the 2 players I thought, for me, who didn't have probably the best tours.
Yeah, on Ramsdale, just very quickly, I love him, and I think he's a very good goalkeeper. I think he had some unbelievable moments for us last season. I think he can get better and better. I just think signing a Raya is only a good thing for the club, and it either pushes him to get better or we find out whether it's enough. So yeah. I won't say too much more on that, but yeah, I'm a big fan of both goalkeepers and would love to have them at the club, even if I am being a bit greedy wanting both. My 2 players very quickly are Rob Holding, because he only played 10 minutes, and that's kind of my point. The fact that he only played 10 minutes I think says a lot about how much he's likely to be used this season. And Balogun, a lot of hype, a lot of excitement around him, the season he just had, but barely got, what did he play? I think 35, maybe 40 minutes against the MLS All-Stars. So I think that would be very disappointing for him. In terms of players who come out stronger, I'm going to lead with this one because we've got different ones. I've gone for, I don't know if it's going to show on screen, so let me do it in yellow. Yellow means good in this case. For me, I've gone Thomas Partey, because I just think the second half against Man United, we were better when he was on the pitch. Against Nuremberg, once he came off, we looked like we had less control. And then against Barcelona, he was brilliant. And then the other player, Kieran Tierney for me. Yeah. I think Kieran Tierney has really benefited from the idea of maybe Timber inverting and then for Tierney playing on the left of a back 3, and then he's able to overlap and go on the outside like White was able to last season. I think Tierney might be a real winner from the Timber signing, but also the various ways we're trying to play now. I think there's a reason that transfer away hasn't happened yet, and there's a good chance that he actually does play a part this season. You've got 3 winners. Yeah. Who are your 3?
Obviously, for me, Trossard.
Yeah.
I think he was the standout player on the tour.
Yeah.
Showed his flexibility, played in a number of positions.
Yeah.
Brilliant on the wing against Barcelona, scored a brilliant goal. And also, as you said, he looked really comfortable in midfield.
Yeah.
It's not his skill set is a forward, but he can play left-sided 8, I thought. He demonstrated that really well. My second standout player on the tour, I think, was Timber.
Yeah.
I thought that he showed his flexibility. He could play on the right, he could play on the left. He looked aggressive in the tackle.
Yeah.
I think he's obviously getting used to the way we play. Little bit position he caught out a few times in the Man United game, but generally overall, I thought he settled in, looked really good, and I think he's going to be a good player for us this season. I can see him possibly even starting, and we talked about that Zinchenko injury.
Yeah.
If that is going to keep him out at the start of the season, I think he could start on the left-hand side. It can't comfortably. And my third player is actually Gabriel Jesus.
Yeah.
Now, he came back last season, didn't look the player he was at the start of last season. I thought that in the run-in. But I thought in this MLS tour, he scored a really good goal at the start of the tour. I thought he looked back sharp like he was last season, at the start of last season. And he looked an integral part of the team in every combination on that left-hand side that you talked about. I thought he looked really good on this tour. He obviously didn't get the goals that, say, Trossard got, but we forget what Jesus offered the team at the start of last season that set us on our way to the start we had at last season. I thought he looked absolutely sharp and excellent on tour.
I agree. I thought Jesus looked absolutely fantastic. All right, that's it, everyone. Let us know in the comment section what you made of Arsenal's tour and what you think Arsenal will be doing tactically this season. We'll have to lead the press. Will Odegaard have to get used to a deeper role? Will we actually see more of a flat midfield 3 press? Timber, is he going to invert? Is he going to play centre-back? Is he going to play right-back? Is he going to start the season left-back in Zinchenko's absence? Of course, we know he's not fully recovered yet. I want to see more minutes from Kivior as well, and still lots to learn when it comes to the Monaco game. And of course, we've got Manchester City in the Community Shield as well on Sunday before we kick things off at 12:30 UK time against Nottingham Forest in the Premier League. That'll be the second game of the Premier League campaign, but we'll be live. I think it'll be the first one on TNT Sports as well. So there you go. Everyone, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Big thanks to Graham. Great to see you again, and we will be back to talk things after the Community Shield and of course looking up to the Premier League season. We'll see you very soon.
Shop for AFTV merch at shop.aftv.co.uk. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Snapchat and Twitch. We've got content for every platform, so check it out.